Pro wrestling is a dance, a cooperative shuffle fueled by aesthetic violence and athletic grace, where two or more individuals come together to tell a story that captivates and enchants in equal measure. Except sometimes, well, it isn't, because something stealing my spot bollocks. Wrestling's history books, which may or may not literally exist, are filled with tales of highly strung workers getting their proverbials in a twist over the prospect of doing their job with another professional, of personal arguments being allowed to impact the professional world. And with that in mind, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, and these are 10 wrestlers who refuse to work together. Number 10, CM Punk and Triple H. The voice of the voiceless kind of said it best when he said he didn't need to work with Triple H needed to work with him. Punk and Triple H had feuded in the past, and it was always the game who came out on top, even as the two men's careers were clearly moving in opposite directions. Or, if it was the worst decision you could possibly make. Punk had nothing to gain in once again going toe-to-toe with one of the industry's most notorious spotlight stealers, especially in a somewhat minor WrestleMania match too. Punk deserved a Mania main event, not a third from the top battle with an aging game. So Punk walked out, refusing to work with Triple H. The camel's back was snapped into multiple pieces, creating a mess that may never be cleaned up entirely. Number 9, Steve Austin and Jeff Jarrett. Double J returned to WWE in 1997 and was promised a feud with the top star in the company. Getting Jarrett to return to WWE was no easy deal to make, but dangling the stone cold Steve Austin carrot, that got the job done. Jarrett arrived and cut a scathing promo on Austin, and everything was kind of hot to trot. The problem was that Austin had no intention of working with Jarrett. Austin's issues with the Jarretts went back to his time working for Jeff's father in Memphis. Then, stunning Steve Austin was paid an absolute pittance by the family, a miserable state of affairs made worse by Jeff having no issue rubbing it in. Number 8, Steve Austin and Billy Gunn. Austin again, once more with a mid-card for life performer with floppy blonde hair. Maybe Stone Cold had something against working with blondes. Rikishi, who coincidentally is another blonde, wasn't always going to be the man to mow down Austin at the 1999 Survivor Series. Before Triple H paid Fatu to do it for the Rock, Billy Gunn was going to be slapped with the attempted murder charge in the name of pro wrestling creativity, leading to a high-profile feud for Mr. Ass against the promotion's premier ass kicker. Austin wasn't exactly thrilled at the idea of working with someone so many rungs below him on the totem pole. He immediately shot down the idea of Gunn being the one to take him out, and honor that eventually found its way to Rikishi. I suppose from one ass to another. Number 7, Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart. A passing of the torch moment that could have put a new stamp on a new era and given Hogan his best match in years in the process. The pink and black versus the red and yellow, an explosion of color that can only be settled in the squared circle. Brain versus brawn. Hulk versus Hitman. It as good as writes itself. Except this is professional wrestling, so of course it didn't. The need to simultaneously get Yoko over as a heel and have WrestleMania 9 end with a babyface win led to Hogan leaving with the title and Bret looking like a chump, albeit a chump who knew that he was scheduled to win the belt from Hogan at SummerSlam. That was the plan, but yeah, you guessed it, that never came to fruition. Hulk went back on his word and instead dropped the title to Yokozuna, refusing to lie down for the Hitman before jumping ship. By the time the two went at it in WCW, the ship had long since left port. Number 6, Sting and Vince McMahon. Loyalty is pro wrestling's most precious commodity, but boy, oh boy, is it rare. Everyone has a price, and Vince McMahon, well, yeah, he kind of has the ability to meet it. Before the dust had even settled on the end days of WCW, its workers were turning up on WWE TV. The need for work clearly stronger than any sense of loyalty. This was true before the war, and it was damn true after the war. It was true for everyone with the exception of Sting. As one WCW star after another turned up on WWE TV, the face-painted hero remained elusive, the only toy that Vince McMahon wasn't able to buy. It wasn't even as if Sting had stopped wrestling completely, turning up in TNA and becoming the first inductee into its prestigious Hall of Fame. Years went by, decades even, but Sting and WWE just couldn't come together. And then Sting eventually decided to join WWE in 2014, setting up a WrestleMania feud with Triple H that saw the game inexplicably win, providing Sting with plenty more reasons for refusing to work with Vince McMahon for so long. Number 5, Chris Jericho and Goldberg. Chris Jericho was one of WCW's most captivating performers in 1998, but creative frustration meant that Jericho was soon on his way out of the company. One of the last straws was an aborted feud with Goldberg, a rivalry that required Bill to do nothing more than be slated for a few weeks before, squashing Jericho like a bug on pay-per-view. And yet, Goldberg still wasn't willing to do it, refusing to work a pay-per-view program with Jericho, seeing him as a comedy wrestler who was beneath him. Sure, the future Y2J wasn't short of comedy, but his jabs at Goldberg were designed to garner a monster reaction when the two finally squared off. A reaction that could have become molten as Bill smashed the ever-loving tar out of the idiot who'd been making fun of him for months. This was a huge missed opportunity. Number 4, Hulk Hogan and Jake Roberts. Hulk was famously scheduled to feud with Jake Roberts in 1986, an angle that got off to a red-hot start when Jake hit Hulk with a DDT on an episode of The Snake Pit. The crowd went wild, but that was where the problem started. The audience went batshit in their approval of their hero being hit with the deadliest move in the game, and that wasn't about to fly with Captain Prez and Vitamins over here. Hogan as good as demanded the feud be stopped before it could begin, using fear of drawing money as an excuse. The real reason, of course, was professional paranoia, as babyface Hogan knew that the evil heel would get a better reaction than him. The feud never happened, although Hogan has since expressed regret over his conduct, which doesn't really make up for anything, does it? Number 3, Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar. 2002, wasn't exactly a banner year for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Years of carrying the business on his tired shoulders had taken its toll, and the injury list was overflowing. Throw in creative issues with the company and the impending inevitability of retirement, and you have yourself a salty rattlesnake, and no one needs one of those. At the other end of the proverbial escalator was Brock Lesnar, the next big thing in professional wrestling. Lesnar was going to run through anyone and everyone, and when the King of the Ring tournament came around, Lesnar was scheduled to beat Austin on his way to the crown. Stone Cold failed to see the merits of putting over a brand new star in an unannounced TV match, a booking move that had run WCW into the ground not long before. Sure, losing to Lesnar didn't fill him with joy, but why not build to a big pay-per-view bout where Lesnar's win would mean more and the company might even make a bit of money in the process? Alas, his disapproval fell on deaf ears, and Austin was miffed to such a degree that he walked out of the company, staying away from professional wrestling until 2003. Number 2, Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan returned to WWE in 2002 with the New World Order in tow, the lethal dose of poison that Vince McMahon had promised to use to kill his creation. A dream feud between Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin, the two biggest stars of the last 20 years, seemed like an absolute no-brainer. Austin, though, wasn't so thrilled about the idea. Plus, the idea was for Hogan to win the WrestleMania X8 match between the two. Was Austin going to let that happen? Of course not. The problems piled up as Hogan decided against losing to Austin, and the dream match to end all dream matches was dead in the water. Hogan went on to have an all-time clash against The Rock, while Austin was left carrying a bloated Scott Hall to 7 minutes of mediocrity. Number 1, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Was this the most... Wait a second, where are my manners? Was this... the most famous personal rivalry in professional wrestling history ever? Their on-screen rivalry was the best of its era, a thrilling feud between two all-time greats during their respective in-ring primes. It made for incredible pro wrestling, fueled by real hatred behind the scenes. On more than one occasion, that hatred boiled over, and one refused to work with the other. The most famous example came in 1997, when Shawn Michaels decided he didn't want to lose to Bret at WrestleMania 13 and figured that losing his smile was a more credible way of dropping the WWF Championship. And it all led to the Montreal Screwjob. The feud between Bret and Shawn was beyond salvation, and yet somehow the company decided to continue booking them against each other for the top title. The situation eventually saw Bret refuse to drop the title to Michaels in Canada, and the rest is history. Screwy, unprofessional history coated in betrayal, duplicity, and the furious phlegm of Bret the Hitman Hart. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Thanks for watching. I've been Adam from What Culture, and I'll see you soon.